Welcome to the RoboCast, episode 108. I am your host, Craig Danby. My special guests this week are Sam Elliott, 64, and Jevan Woodrow, World of Woodrow. Welcome, guys.
That's perfect. We go with that. That's just how it's going to start. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Elliott, 64, and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Jevan, World of Woodrow, and our guest for this week, Craig Danby. Hello, Craig. How are you?
Howdy. How's it going?
Pretty good. Now, I do need to.
Are you not going to introduce Steve?
Well, Steve isn't here.
Oh, and Steve
is. There's there.
Hi, Steve.
For those watching or listening only, there's a little mannequin of some description behind Craig.
I have made a puppet in my off time. He's blue. He's got a little red bow tie. He's got glasses and a hat. It's a copy of another puppet from a YouTube show called Puppet History. Check it out after you've listened to us talking about robots for the next 45 hours.
Yes, this is what we do. It's a special skill of ours.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing the normal stream lengths.
Oh.
Well,
Craig.
Yes.
This is podcast number 108 that we've done. Now, I actually put a comment out last week saying that we obviously already spoken to our guest for this week, confirming who it's going to be, and the number 108 was special to them. Why is 108 special to you?
So, I built a robot back in 2001 called TX108. And it went to Series 6 and 7. No.
It was before that, wasn't it?
5, 6, and 7. Yeah, Series 5, 6, and 7 of Robot Wars. The image on your screen is TX109, the rebuilt version from 2014. So good job there, Sam.
There was no clean images of TX108, so what did I have to do?
I mean, you could have asked. I should have asked hundreds. But yeah, 108 was my crusher bot that I built. But mostly my dad built, and I claimed that I built. I built it a lot later on, or rebuilt it a lot later on. So, I mean,
do you have any of it left at all? Is it still about anywhere?
So, I think we've still got the arm. I know the hydraulics from 108 went into Predator. So it was a modified. We changed the motor on it because we blew the motor, but the hydraulics from TX108 made it all the way 20 years later to BattleBots, basically.
That's nice.
So that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I thought nice little story. The fact that it actually managed to compete, in some description, like even on BattleBots, all these years later. I have to give a big shout out to Tom Morbis, who actually got that correct and guessed it was going to be you. So there you go. Good for them.
I'll send you a sticker, but I won't. Because I don't have any left.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, I do want to talk about this year's robot, which is of course Slammo, now without the W.
Yeah.
First, I want to talk about the color scheme. Like, was this just like? Did it come to you in a fever dream one night?
Sorry, you flicked screen and I wasn't ready for it. I've been wearing the glasses.
We had to do something that was very different from what we had before. We needed to do something that was very distinctive. That this was not the same bot as last year, and it's 3 layers of vinyl. So there's a base layer, which is like a circuit board. It's white with a grey backing on the circuit board. And then there's a red layer, and then there's a blue layer. But in the red layer, it's got all of the names of the people that worked on the robot. So it's myself, my wife, my brother, Randy, Jason, Matt, Mark, and Mike. And then in the blue layer is the names of all of our sponsors. And I'm glad they didn't show that, because I've got a sponsor listed in the blue layer, which pulled out last minute. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Thanks for that. Awesome.
Obviously the machines look similar, but you can tell there's obviously been a lot of evolution between Slammo from last year and Slammo from 2021. Like, what were the key differences between the two machines?
We changed our material. So last year was all AR500, and this year we used a material. It doesn't really have a name. It doesn't have a brand name, but it's a high manganese steel, and it's what very, very expensive digger buckets are made of. He's got it's like if you get like a really, really expensive like JCB bucket, they're made of this stuff. And it's like it's the high-end stuff because it hardens the more you work it. What I didn't realize when I bought the steel was that it had to be welded underwater. So I had to get a really big plastic bucket, fill it to the top with water, and learn how to weld underwater. So that was interesting. And one thing I found is that if you weld underwater, the water disappears pretty quickly. So you have to have the hose on while you're welding. So that was interesting. That was an interesting process.
So
internally,
it's a new skill, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, but internally from this bot to last year's bot, it's the same motors, the same gearboxes. It's not the same gearboxes. It's the same ratio, but we went to slightly smaller wheels, but we upped the voltage so that we didn't lose any speed. We're actually a tiny bit quicker. The weapon arms are supposed to be the exact same ratio and stuff. I saw lots of comments from people like, "Oh, Slammo hasn't protected its top at all to face an overhead bot." It's like it's all half-inch steel. What's it gonna do? If you get through half-inch steel, it doesn't matter what I put on. Yeah. So
at that point, it's kind of like irrelevant. If you're going through that, then fair enough. Then
it's like if you're going through like they're like, "Oh, we're gonna hit the gearbox." The gearbox is half-inch steel and it's fully welded and bolted out of plane. And the shaft itself is a 2-inch solid steel shaft. It's not hollow. It's if he hits that and breaks it, he deserves to take it home as a prize. So congratulations. So I wasn't worried about them hitting it over the top. The arms this year are solid as well. Last year they were plate welded together. They're a solid lump this year. So and it is Mad Catter blue.
It is.
So we couldn't get hold of any cyan blue, the light blue, which happens to be his color. And nobody had any. We tried to buy it online, and they were like giving us 6-week delay on delivery, and nobody in Vegas had it. And so the Mad Catter guys were like, "We've got a bit of blue left. Here you go." I was like, "That'll do." So yeah, it's the wrong blue, but it's
blue nonetheless.
Blue.
Yeah.
I kept seeing comments like, "Oh, it looks a lot like Mad Catter," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's their colors, so literally their paint."
Obviously, fight number 1 was your fight against Hypershock.
Yeah.
What in the end killed Slammo? Because as much as
getting hit by a 180 mile an hour spinning disc that weighed about 80 pounds. Actually, it's not even that heavy. It hit and hurt, and it just. I'd like to say that we came out of that fight and the bot went into the fight and everything was straight. We came out of the box and it wasn't straight.
Yeah.
So
you can just see it on some of the slow-mo that it's not the nice shape anymore.
Correct. And after the second fight, which we'll get to in a bit, I guess, I found that if you cut the welds, the material flex back. So I was like, "Oh, so you just cut all of the welds where it's bent, and it just the material just goes ping back to straight, and it wasn't bent at all." I'm like, "Oh, that's. I wish I hadn't cut half the robot off now."
You live and you learn. You live and you learn.
Yeah. So what died on it? Everything. Nothing was moving at the end of it. So yeah, it just straight up killed us. New speed controllers went in, and a new motor. Yeah, 1 new motor went in, 2 new gearboxes, 2 new wheels because they busted both of the back wheels. Spare set of side armor went on, and that was it. So
yeah, that was that. I mean, to be fair, it was a spectacular fight. I mean, the color clash alone was worth it. I think it was.
We wanted to do so many other little mockery things at the beginning. Like I was going to drive Hypershock and he was going to drive Slammo, which in hindsight I wish I'd done. As I would never have given it back.
I mean, the gamesmanship of swapping sides was wonderful.
We talked about it for ages, and he's like, "Are you going to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." Because I've tried to get other people to do it, and they wouldn't do it. And I knew that I could get Will to do it. I was like, let's go. So we drove across, and he's like, you actually gonna go? And then the referees are shouting out, it's like, get back to your square.
I did wonder.
I'll just start from here. And they're like, no, drive back. So I drove back, and Will's like, no, we'll both start from the blue square. So we both parked in the blue square. And then they're like, Will, get your ass back. And he's just like, across the arena, spins it round, and I'm like, that was as close to, that was good fun. But yeah. I love the Hypershock boys. I have no problem losing to Will. Yeah, it was fun.
It was indeed. It was
stressful, but fun.
Yeah. Should we talk about some fights from this week? I think that's a good idea. Well, we're going to actually talk about a fight from last week first. I'm really sorry. It's actually YouTube exclusive.
Again,
from last
you throw
week.
the word around fight.
There was contact made. That's a fight. Disappointing fight, nonetheless, but a fight. Pleased for Smee that they got a win.
Yes.
Maybe not in the way that they would have liked, and definitely not a defeat in the way that Deep Six would have wanted either. Those big kill slaw slots this year have really...
Arena is blocked. Fight underground.
Literally.
Let's go.
It's just tunneling down. To be fair to Smee, I think they would have won even if Deep Six hadn't got stuck. Yeah, they already stuck.
Deep Six was struggling to manage to hit anything on Smee, and Smee was just getting under them the whole time. And then, as you say, they caught a wheel and took it. What can Deep Six do from there?
I do think Smee would have taken the hits better than people think it would have done. I think John, like, they're both good drivers. Like Joe and Dustin, great drivers. They're both very difficult robots to drive. And they do a really good job driving those really difficult robots. I disagree. I think it just needed one good hit from Deep Six to win it. The really annoying thing was that right before filming, like, we all have this every year we do it where they announce the first set of fights. They go through this like rundown of what's changed in the arena and stuff like that. And they specifically said, if you get stuck on the arena by your own doing, and you can't get off and your opponent can't get you off, we will unstick you and start the fight again. And Smee was right next to him. And Smee did take his wheel off after he got stuck. But Deep Six got itself stuck. You're going to see this later on. I don't know if they're going to show it, but there is a fight later on. I think it's in the tournament itself, so I won't say who. But somebody thinks they get stuck on the arena, and they're just doing the thing. They think that the arena is stuck on them, and they insist on an unstick. And so they go to unstick it, and they go, "You're not touching the side of the arena. You're just out." So they close the box and they count them out. They're probably not going to show that bit, but that definitely happened. So
eagle-eyed viewers, keep your eyes out for which fight it might be. if they don't show it,
don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
It's Slammo Black Force.
I can't believe you beat Paul like that. You know, come on.
It's interesting they didn't unstick.
Just put herself right on it. Yeah, I think it's a shame in this instance that we didn't get to see much of a fight, and I can see why it was kind of shoved to the Sunday slot, if you like. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those fights where.
And of course, they made those kill source slots wider so that they could fit the pyrotechnics in, didn't they?
Yes.
For doing the lovely sparkly bits, and they look so pretty. And
I think there's now 2 swords in each slot, and the pyrotechnics come out the middle.
Oh, right.
So there is more of a hazard, if you like.
I was going to say, there's a lot of extra room to fit some pyrotechnics in, and I was really starting to question it.
Well,
yeah.
Each their own.
Looks great, though.
Yeah, that little intro bit before the main event and the first fight of the night. Yeah. Let's move on to some proper fights, shall we? Let's get on with it. So, fight number 1.
Bloodsport versus SubZero.
Yeah.
I pulled it up.
Oh, excellent.
So I can remember. I know all the results. I couldn't remember who it was. Bloodsport versus SubZero. Great. Okay. Let's go.
Well, what do we think? Because for me, this was just excellent control and driving from Bloodsport.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed this fight. I watched it back earlier today. We watched it. We've been recording some of Lego War Series 3 over the last few days, and we watched this on David of Smeg's sofa. Enjoying the episode as a group, but all talking over all the important bits. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and rewatch some of it. And I rewatched this one. That's about as far as I got, actually. But the actual fight itself is very, very fun. SubZero obviously missing out on a few flips.
Yeah, I wonder because
it feels very sort of like I know they had an issue back in 2019 where was it 2019? I can't remember, when they got hit SubZero, their flipper system then had a reaction to it and went off. And I can't remember the details of why that was, but it looked like it was happening again here. Either that, or they were just a bit slow on the trigger.
I thought it wasn't Logan who was controlling the flipper, was it? It was the guy next to him, and I can't remember the guy next to him's name. And I wonder if he was a little bit trigger happy and kind of just got a bit excited or just panicked.
He wasn't waiting for a good flip.
He wasn't. And as a result, SubZero, I think, got one good flip on it and chucked Bloodsport
one good flip,
over.
But Bloodsport, gyro stabilization of the horizontal spinner in the air, it landed well.
And just took it apart. And there's the whole kind of side panel gets caved in, the wheel gets... The red
Shot
foam
at
in the
Chris
wheel.
Rose.
I know, rude. I did like the fact that all the wheels had different colour foam in them as well. That was nice.
It was very much an old school robot design versus a new school robot design. You've got a billet-bodied Bloodsport versus kind of like a tubular frame of SubZero.
All the air gaps.
There's only a certain amount of ways that you can build a flipping robot. SubZero is... Logan's great, and his robot is great, and he's a terrific driver, and his flipping system is terrific when he gets good flipping. But the original build of the bot, I'm fairly confident in saying it's not what he would do, and I'm fairly certain that if we'd have filmed a month or so later, we'd have had a new version of SubZero rather than a rebuild from last year's. And I think that's what we'll get with SubZero 2022, 2023.
Yeah, it's something to look forward to for sure.
This is not the bot I think Logan wanted to bring. So yeah, it was an old school versus new school kind of way of doing it, and a new school generally.
It was interesting that we didn't see the similar tactics to their Valkyrie match in the Bounty Hunters. Oh, hello. Somebody's nicking my power. It was interesting we didn't see the same tactics as in the Bounty Hunters episode last year against Valkyrie, because they managed to just get him in the corner, flip him again, hit him with the pulverizer, flip him again, and until Valkyrie doesn't know which way up they are, and they just lose. They just lose the match. Bloodsport, obviously, very different machine to Valkyrie, but that big front wedge on it, I had hopes. I had real big hopes that we were going to see the sort of just smothering capabilities of SubZero. And then I had another thought, because there is written into the rules this year about corralling, and how much of that tactic they were worried that might have been deemed corralling.
That might come up later.
Very saucy. Oh, Craig, you
perhaps
spoil
in the
us.
main event tonight.
Tonight?
Had thought.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later.
There's a moment where I went, yeah, they're going to be told to back off.
Yeah. Bloodsport, I mean, excellent. I really enjoy the fact that the spin-up time is...
Yeah, it's a terrific robot. Extremely well made. The guys do a terrific job of it. And to have Retrograde in as well, which we'll get to in a bit, just terrific amount of work that they've done. Really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, coming from yourself, who has an overhead horizontal of your own in the past as well, it's...
And hopefully the future too.
And of course, yes.
We'll see.
Let's talk about... what does Steve think?
What do you think, Steve? Moving swiftly on.
Yeah,
we
had to censor that. Didn't we? We had to censor that very quickly. Well, let's talk about fight number 2, which is Cobalt and Ghost Raptor.
So entries are closed now for the competition where you can redesign Ghost Raptor.
Cobalt's already done it.
Yeah.
Oh boy!
Turned it into a fine paste.
I mean, we've we said, I think earlier as last year, didn't we? We kind of suspected, like, at some point, the way that Ghost Raptor's laid out, the fact that it's kind of 3 pods, really, kind of like Red Devil, or almost, was kind of suspected, the caliber of machines of today, and obviously Cobalt really is one of the better ones, and, regardless of how their first fight went, you don't want to fight it. It's an absolutely, it's a destroyer of worlds if it gets you. And it got Ghost Raptor, and my God, did it get Ghost Raptor. I've never seen a robot.
Matt Maxon was so pissed off after the fusion fight. I was in the welding tent with him, and he's there like, get out of the way. And he's just pushing the robot. He's like, I got shit to do. And he's just like cutting pieces off him. And the leading welding guys were like, I was like, yeah, just let him do his thing. Not that they could have done anything to stop Matt anyway, but he was destroyed. Whatever came next, he was destroying. And I had a horrible feeling it might be us. I was really glad it wasn't, because I think he probably would have done that to us as well. He was absolutely terrific. One thing I will say is credit to Ghost Raptor. They fought Glitch. I think within 20 or 24, at least within 20 hours of fighting Glitch, they were back in the arena fighting Cobalt, and they fight again with Ghost Raptor. So they get this robot back together. So credit where credit is due.
I was sure that was it, done.
I think a lot of us were, and I remember talking to one of the Ghost Raptor guys, and he's like, "Oh man, Chuck wants to rebuild it. I just want to go get drunk and party." I was like, "Well," and he does. They get the robot back together. And gets back into the arena. So credit to Chuck and the boys. Terrific job. But bloody hell, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a robot so broken like that. Like, it's kind of been. I've seen people compare it to kind of when Vanquish got split in half and Huge got split in half, but on those occasions it was kind of, it wasn't clean.
Its sections have come apart.
Yeah,
this was
everything,
everything everywhere, sparks flying, everything arcing, and then it's on fire.
Oh, buttering the arena floor. It was with Ghost Raptor.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Like, and I and the fact is as well, like, there was a legitimate opportunity here where that may not have happened, and because Cobalt was stuck under the screws, and Chuck could have gone in and really done some nasty stuff to Cobalt themselves. I bet he regrets not doing that now, because I mean, there wasn't much Ghost Raptor left after this fight, was there? Well, certainly not much like how it was meant to look.
No.
It's a face only a mother could love.
I mean, that was before the fight. I mean, after the fight, it was just... it's just, my goodness.
There's a wonderful moment in the fight, really early on, where one of the forks on Cobalt just goes like that and
just smacks itself in the face.
And every time I see that, I giggle, because I've seen it a few times now. It's just like, fucking come on.
It's just slap his own face. It's great.
Let's go.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I think Chuck kind of put it plainly where if he didn't win this fight, he wasn't going to be in the bracket. I'm not expecting to see Ghost Raptor in the bracket, I'll be honest. Cobalt, I am. I really am, because that was just spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. I don't think there's really much else to add other than that, really.
No,
it was a creaming. Almost an actual creaming.
Yeah, it's true. Let's move on. Fight number 3.
Speaking of creamings.
Well, IceWave and Deadlift. The old IceWave back. Literally the old IceWave back. Yeah. How we remember it back in 2018, or was it the one they took to Vegas in Remars? One of those two.
Yeah.
One of them two. Obviously with the blade now not toffied like it was in Vegas. I was surprised actually. I had Deadlift to win this one.
Yeah, same.
Because the last couple of years, like last season, we kind of saw how much punishment Deadlift could take, and okay, yes, it ran. I think did it run out of battery against Ghost Raptor themselves? I can't remember. It just stopped, didn't it? Eventually, and then it beat Jackpot and was giving Jackpot a good fight this year, and then just kind of the damage accumulated for Deadlift, didn't it? Unfortunately,
yeah.
I kind of thought, well, IceWave doesn't spin up the fastest. Deadlift's pretty solid. I feel like Deadlift have got a chance here, and no, I was proven very wrong, and IceWave turned it on, and it's such a great noise when it's in the arena, isn't it? It really does hit different.
I remember being at 2018 BattleBots, and when IceWave powered up for the first time for its spin-up test, whether it was its functionality test, and the pit's empty to go and watch it. And then everybody comes running out. They're like, "Oh man, like, this is so cool." It's just sitting there, and he's just like he just turns it off and then waits like 40 seconds and it stops. It just with this blade doing 200 miles an hour. That's so cool. And then he turned it back on. Like, oh, it's
definitely a robot. Yeah, it's definitely a robot that's kind of. It's not the apex predator anymore. Let's say that much with IceWave. But like, you just love to see it in the arena, don't you? It was
so good to see it back properly working for the first time. Not having your drive chain sticking out the bottom of your robot to get hit, not having your bar beaten to bits, not having the top section clouted by Skorpios. It's just IceWave, and it's there, and
it's doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Deadlift guys as well, because they really earned this fight as well. One of the things that is like an unwritten rule in BattleBots is that you have to earn like the next step up. Like if you want to fight a legend, you've got to do well, and they've done so well to get to the point. They like Bounty Hunters last year was their best run in reality, and like their fight against Jackpot this year was actually really great to watch. We kind of thought it was going to be a repeat.
We were surprised that it wasn't in the main card. It was really good.
Yeah,
I think the problem is that like they edit the fights as they're going, and there was nowhere for that fight to fit into that show, if you like. So it probably would have been a high ranking or highly sought after fight in a later episode, but it kind of messes with the narrative if you do that kind of thing. So but I think Deadlift is extremely well made. It's the guys that run it are really good. That like for a relatively new team, I know that they're currently at Motorama and competing, but new to BattleBots, new to the big boys, they've done a terrific job. So credit where credit's due. They've done great.
Yeah, it was a real shame. I've just looked up what went wrong for the Deadlift team, and seemingly they had some battery connectors that were just really awkward to get apart at some point. They went into the box against Jackpot, it's all got loosened up nicely so that they can get it on and off, and then just in this fight popped off the battery connectors, and that was that.
Just always cable tie your connectors, or at least try and tape it.
Just weld everything together.
Yeah,
that's a simple way of doing it. I do think, again, kind of like Ghost Raptor, Deadlift might struggle now to get into the bracket. I feel like if they're going to do it, they need to take out someone big, and as we kind of said, they've obviously earned the fight with IceWave.
They've not only that, Jackpot, I mean, top 32 robot last year. They've kind of fought two big names, or reasonably big anyway, for what is modern BattleBots now. Where do you go from here? It's going to be a rough one for them. I will say it's the first televised fight that they have got that wasn't on Bounty Hunters, basically.
I know, which is crazy to think, isn't it? Considering that obviously last
main season.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good for them. Yeah. And obviously IceWave at 1-1. Obviously they lost to Black Dragon. Black Dragon's very good. You can't.
Top four machine from last year?
As you'd know, Craig.
No idea. I'll have to chip my back off on that one.
Oh dear. What does Steve think?
He doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
In that case, then. Okay. Let's talk about some lifties and flippies then, shall we? Blip and Overhaul. Jevan, you seem very happy with your toy.
Blip goes on strength to strength. Just continues to be a beautiful machine. I'm gonna, just before we talk about the fight itself, what the hell, BattleBots? You did a whole section on how Blip works and didn't put it in the show. Come on!
I know. I saw that. It was with Pete, wasn't it? And
a Pete section. Pete Abrahamson talking about bloody how technology works, about Blip, and you decide to put that on Facebook. What?
I completely forgot to mention back in the earlier fight with Bloodsport, Pete with his potty mouth. What a guy! He just
mouth of a sailor.
Oh, what a guy! What a guy! Thanks for that, Craig.
No problem.
Oh, we've just earned the E on this podcast. I think.
Yeah, there's a reason I keep
we
the
can
E on
really
it.
earn it if you like. I can really take it up. I've been holding back.
So what did Pete actually say? Well,
He said on Twitter, didn't he? I'll find it. Talk about Blip and Overhaul. I'll find it.
yeah, okay. So this was a bit of a trouncing once again for Overhaul, unfortunately. Just
they didn't start off that way. I think they were getting the better off of the early exchanges.
When Blip turns, obviously it's got the gyroscopic forces of a spinner because the spinner is on the inside of the robot. So when it is up to full whack, it's just when it turns, it lifts, and that just gave Overhaul the perfect opportunity to get under to start with. And then Blip starts doing acrobatics.
Yeah.
It does.
So
I love a good electric flipper.
Yeah.
Because having fought pneumatic boys for 15 years in England,
yes,
back to back, when somebody turns out with something different like Blip and like Hydra, like that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, initially I thought Overhaul might get him, because he was getting in underneath him and just looked like he could just do the grabby thing, be like, get you. I just don't think that Charles is the best driver in the world. And Aaron is.
Yeah,
one of the better drivers.
Aaron showed last year just superlative driving, and all season. I mean, Tantrum won its way to the top 4 through driving because the weapon system packed up more often than not. So
driving and reliability was what got Tantrum where it was, and it's going to be something similar, I think, for Blip, if not this year, next year. Because new bots tend to take a little bit of
I say we did see one of the wheels die towards the end, didn't it, on Blip, I think.
I think it was dead at the death when they were counting out Overhaul. I don't think Blip could move. I mean,
really? Oh, the fact that they were flipping themselves around, they were kind of able to show movement.
I don't think they could physically traverse. So
that's interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting.
I found what Pete said, by the way.
Okay.
Pete apparently said, well, what he says to reply to Mr. Psycho, friend of the podcast, absolute legend. He said, duck shift up. We've had him on already this season. He's busy. He said, duck shift up. Now, obviously, you can kind of interpret what he actually said there, but yeah, he said fuck shit up, basically.
No, we're going to dance around it and then we're just going to say it, sure.
Yeah. No, we've already had to use the E, so the E's fine. Blip was excellent. I really, the flips that it did get, especially when it's kind of on that kind of side wall where Overhaul was kind of on fire by that point already.
What happened?
Rage bridges.
Say no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It lost 2 wheels, caught fire, refused to elaborate, and lost.
Rage bridges.
There you go, folks. But it was excellent to watch. I can see what we were a bit confused again. Like, this is kind of the mid-card major fight, and I was kind of like, why would they put Blip and Overhaul there? But sure enough,
it was a spectacle.
It really was, and that's exactly why
it was at times like a wrestling match where Blip flips Overhaul up into the air and Overhaul just smashes its face against the upper deck as it comes back down. It just feels like a body slam, or as close to one as you're going to get in BattleBots. Yeah. Obviously, not a suplex, of course.
Not quite a suplex. Well, far more impressive.
I've been a bit disappointed with Overhaul's lack of suplexes. I mean, I know they've had 2 very difficult opponents. Let's not make any mistakes here.
Ribot is.
And Blip
You're lucky to win against that.
Yeah, and Blip obviously doing very well, is kind of carrying on from where Tantrum kind of ended last season with how well it's controlled and what have you with Aaron at the controls, and the weapons working very well. I hope their third fight we get to see a little bit more grab, lift, pick up, mess around in the hazards, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? I think the other thing as well, which was kind of interesting to note, was Aaron kind of refusing to. We've spoken to him about this earlier this year, kind of him refusing to kind of be drawn into the Hydra rivalry because, ultimately there are only 4 for now, but there are only 4 flipper bots in the field, and they're all doing something slightly different. And credit to him for not kind of Lucky, SubZero, Blip, and Hydra. You can't forget about Lucky. They're wonderful.
I mean, it's called Ziggy.
Yeah, it's true.
As I'm old. I've been around for a long time.
We all remember Ziggy deep down.
Anyway,
Fight five, Huge and Retrograde. Huge with the black wheels.
Yeah, it must be 2019 because he's wearing black shoes. This is so cool. It is such a good win for Huge, and you could see it written all over Jonathan's face. Just such
the relief of stress, I think.
Yeah, such a good win. Retrograde going in without the spinner, and I was wondering what exactly is that spinner going to hit, because it's an undercutter and there's not a lot under Huge, so makes sense to put the weight somewhere else, I guess.
Yeah. Went for the top armor, didn't they? Which didn't really last very long, unfortunately.
Popped it off.
It's interesting that Huge, because they armored up on top, thinking that Huge was going to spin into them.
Down, yeah.
But they did. They span up, and I mean the evidence was fairly clear very early on that Retrograde wasn't really going to be able to do much. It's so difficult because obviously Huge's body, you have to be really, really good to get that. Kraken got it last year with the kind of the spear and the grab and the flames. Matt Vasquez has shown a couple of times he's shown how to do it.
Retrograde's best tactics here would have been go for the wheels and try and get your.
I think that was what they were planning to do, but it's a lot. Like say it every single time. Everyone's got a plan until they get hit, and the idea is that you have your forks up a little bit and you drive forwards towards Huge. You tank that first hit and you turn into them as you get hit. That's the idea because we've had similar discussions. I actually have made some slightly longer arms so that I can squish him down onto the floor and bend his wheels out. That's like, I'm gonna get him.
Yeah,
but,
pull him down to the ground.
It's like, I'll bring you down at my level. That was my plan. Retrograde did everything I think Retrograde could do. They armored where they needed to. Was it enough? Unfortunately not. That's just the way it is sometimes.
Should we talk about the Huge celebration as well?
It does have an air of the meme where you
T-pose to assert dominance.
Oh no, take the medal, take the champagne, drink it, celebrate, snog your wife, and all that whole
third place guy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you boys. But I think Huge did that as a test. I think Huge went up onto the upper deck to see could they get up there themselves if they wanted to. And
obviously,
sure enough, they could.
100%. What I liked more is that they went with one wheel up one set of the screws and then just turned and went up the other set of screws with their other wheel. Just like, I don't see this as a hazard. I see this as aid for us.
An opportunity for Huge. It's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that in the future because they may just hide up there and spin up and then come down and decide, okay, now we'll fight you. And it's a great strategy because not every team, I don't think many teams could do that, if any. Like,
that's what I want to see from Hexbug is the Huge and upper deck set.
A huge upper deck set with Mammoth, and it comes in a 6 foot by 6 foot box.
Yes. I will have to sign for it delivery. A proper. I want to see.
It comes in one of those BattleBots crates that everyone ships out in.
This was a fun. The fight itself maybe not as exhilarating as some of the fights in this episode, but it was a fun little fight. And Retrograde to lose to Huge is no shame.
Bing bong. There's somebody at the door.
Is there? No.
Me at the door.
Oh my goodness.
Look at his face.
It's the real Steve.
Wait for it.
This imposter Steve can go away.
Wait for it. Hello, Steve.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Are you okay?
All right, on to the main event.
I'm good.
Steve, tell us your thoughts of everything up to Huge Retrograde. Go.
I mean, the episode's good. It's been really good. I mean, there's been a lot of tense fights. Judges haven't had to work except until the main event, and that's basically how I feel about the episode so far.
Nothing to say about Cobalt and Ghost Raptor?
Yeah, that was special. Ghost Raptor's made out of sticky back plastic. But this is one of those things where I don't know if anybody would survive that hit. That was just plain scary. And having that happen right up against the driver box was
a
a
statement,
special
isn't it?
It was
Yeah,
chef's kiss.
was
It
beautiful.
It really was.
But yeah.
Right. Let's talk about Copperhead and Fusion. I'm going to come to you first, Steve, because I feel like you've waited long enough. Steve,
I know.
He's
what
just
do you think?
woken up.
No, I
Give him a
haven't.
break.
Oh, have you not? Talk us through the fight.
Okay. So this fight, I had a feeling Copperhead might have an edge because Fusion's had trouble against Verts. So we have this fight where if they go head on, I expect Copperhead to have some trouble. Doesn't end up being a problem because Copperhead knocks Fusion's Vert out immediately. And then it's just a one weapon fight. And then all it takes for Copperhead to get a chance in is getting around the side and tossing Fusion upside down. And it just happened to be just a one-sided affair. I expected more hits between the two of them, but Copperhead's a different beast. I think they're really, really ready to make a deep run this time. I think they were embarrassed last year, and I think they're ready to really show that this bot can actually do the business. So,
yeah, I must say, kudos to Fusion, who didn't go up in flames this time as well.
No.
Like, it's 2 for 2 now on staying not on fire, which is great, because that's always a better way to have your robot. Keep the smoke in. I think as soon as the vert went down, Fusion is obviously very limited to it's a horizontal versus a vert. In the past, we know how that goes. We have seen Copperhead struggle against some horizontals in the past, but it seems to have put those grievances to bed as well.
I think the other thing for me in this fight that kind of highlighted an improvement in Copperhead was the standard of driving, and the driving in general was just really, really good.
Solid.
It was. In the first fight, I think they got hit on the wheel, didn't they? Which we found out later on. The chain got knocked off by Lockjaw, and it was. I think it wasn't Robert driving, was it? It was the other guy. I can't remember, but I think Robert was driving in this fight. Yeah, possibly. And I think he was driving this fight, and it just seemed a lot more planted, and very, very impressive from Copperhead. I'm depending on who they fight.
You're still a little pensive.
Yeah, I mean, if they depending on who they fight, they could be again top 3 seed. Like it really, really could be. It's that good. The jury's still a little bit out. This was very, very impressive, but they have been prone to kind of dip in and out of form. And obviously, Mammoth we saw last year, turn them over. So we'll see. Again, beautiful art by Kimberly on the drum.
Oh yeah, we didn't really get a good show of it. Come on, camera guy. We really didn't get a good zoom in where they came out of the.
It was like the snake, and then like a big explosion in the middle, wasn't there? A kind of big,
yeah,
nuclear bomb sort of style explosion. Craig, anything to add to this?
Copperhead is really, really, really reliable. It's so difficult to knock it out that. It wins fights purely on reliability, and I love the Waiachi guys, but Fusion's reliability isn't as good. And take that from somebody who also has terrible reliability. I know it when I see it. The Waiachi guys are, as a team, they're the best engineers at BattleBots. The stuff they make, both professionally and just for the show, is outstanding. They're terrific. Design-wise, I think Fusion is a terrific work of design work. I think he does a great job driving it too. I just think it's just Copperhead is a really, really robust, really reliable robot, and I think they need the machine god to smile down a little bit on them when it comes to the bracket. Because I think that's all they need at this point to have a shot at the giant nut. They just need a bit more luck when it comes to things like who they're facing. I'd love to see Copperhead take on Tombstone.
Because the weapon's just so big, and it's basically the same size as Copperhead itself. I wonder how it would deal with that.
I think that would be an incredible fight.
Make it happen, BattleBots. Make it happen. Well, Craig,
I'm glad I showed up just in time for this.
let's talk about Switchback and Slammo.
It didn't have quite that many blades, but
No, it didn't. I was interested with the setup they went with, but talk us through it, Craig. What happened?
If you've seen it, it drives out into the box. And as it drives into the box goes forwards. And you have to drive back and then drive into the box. And that was the front left wheel jamming and then the chain snapping. So immediately we're fighting on 3 wheels. And I cannot for the life of me figure out what it was that caused that. But we were still having a hangover from the Hypershock fight, and also a hangover from commiserating ourselves after the Hypershock fight.
It was a literal hangover as well.
Literal, like they in the pre-fight interview, they said they're like, okay, so introduce who you're fighting today and tell us about your strategy. It's like, okay, today I'm fighting a hangover, and my strategy is to avoid stressful situations and loud noises. Also, we're fighting Switchback, and they didn't use it, and I'm really the whole thing, but they didn't use it. But Switchback hits hard. That's a 70-pound drum doing 150 plus miles an hour. We're still hurting after the Hypershock fight because it's only been a day or so at this point. We thought we'd made some good strides forward with the bot, and turns out we hadn't. And there's nothing I can do to change anybody's mind on that. It just is, this bot was nowhere near where we wanted it to be, and there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. But it
really looked the part this time.
It really looked great. You hear that, Jevan? It looks great.
It does. I agree.
I cannot argue. It looks fantastic. Just bright and unexpected at the moment that Sam put it up on screen.
I mean,
I have to prepare for it.
The real question I have is when's the t-shirts coming out? Because I'm still waiting. I'm still
wearing last year's merch, man. Come on.
I mean, we're working. So those shirts, they're Hydro Git printed shirts, and we are happy to sell them, but they'll be like $60-ish each, and I don't really want to sell them at that kind of price. So I'm rooting out another supplier that can do them at a more reasonable price.
Fair enough.
As much as I would like to sell enough t-shirts to pay for a new robot, I'm not prepared to do that at the cost of the fans killing themselves to buy one t-shirt.
Fair.
It's a very nice shirt.
It is a very, very nice shirt.
But yeah, so Switchback would be better than this time.
I did want to quickly mention the new bot, because the new version of Slammo is built. It looks fantastic. The sort of, it feels like the lower sections feel like a couple of oven gloves that you're going underneath a baking tray to pull out the oven because it's so hot.
So with this robot, we have 5. We narrowed down our weapon setups to 5. There's 2 wedge setups. There's this setup that's on screen at the minute. There's the setup we used against Hypershock, which is just a static forklift, and there was another secret one which was basically this one but slightly different, and that was for Witch Doctor. We had a special Witch Doctor setup. Had we got to fight them again, I'm gunning for them a little bit. Very glad we didn't, because they'd have destroyed us. But anyway, so we narrowed down what we wanted to do, and they come out to about $800 each setup, not including the upper arms. The upper arms are $600 each. So when I started designing the new bot, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of the modularity completely. And I'm going to have it as wedgy, like a big wedgy front. And I'll have, I'll protect the actual forks themselves as best I can. And I'll stick with the solid setup. And I've saved so much money, man. So much. I saved so much money trying to do that. It's like, okay, now I don't need $2,000 just for weapons. I can put that into a second and third chassis. So I haven't got one Slammo 2022. I have 3 Slammo 2022s. They are all built. One is in England. We broke one down and sent it back with Chris when he came over for Robot Ruckus. So the hope is that I'm going to come over and do the UK Heavyweight Championships with it.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you again at some point. It should be good fun. It's been a while, Craig. I think the last time I saw you was New Year 2020.
Yeah, and we were shoving ice cubes up Tim Rackus's ass.
You think we're joking?
No, I don't at all. These are some of the things we can look forward to in April.
Hey, Charlie.
Oh dear. Let's move on to the main event before we get taken down for
descend into total anarchy.
Yeah,
you lose your monetization and it's over.
Yeah, I think it's probably a risk already.
Some editing required.
No, we're keeping this all in. This is raw. Whiplash and Skorpios. I'm going to say something a bit strange now. I think both teams made setup mistakes.
You think so? Why?
So, I think Whiplash made it unnecessarily hard on themselves to win by not choosing the disc.
Mm-hmm.
I think
you're already losing that part of the judging card.
Like that's what I mean, and I feel like obviously they went on to win anyway, so it didn't really matter in the end. I'm picking holes in something that doesn't matter, but I feel like they made it unnecessarily hard on themselves, and it was a split decision. Let's talk about that. We'll talk about that a bit later on, but it was just crazy to me that they go for the weapon. Skorpios lost this fight by putting the really long forks on, and I know
don't hinge.
I know they were trying to outreach Whiplash, but I don't think that's Skorpios' way to win. Like their way to win is to just they didn't have the reach with the weapon, so they couldn't get the damage points anyway. So I think on both counts, it's just kind of like a compromise setup to fight the other, and I don't know. Discuss.
This is everything wrong with the sport at the minute. Is the wedge look game?
Yep.
It's just ruining fights. I mean, this fight could have been.
It was a great driving fight anyway.
Mm-hmm. It was, but it could have been more than just a great driving fight. Mm-hmm. Is what we're saying. It's such a shame. I am not a big fan of the wedge look game. I can absolutely 100% see where the production side are coming from by making kill source slots bigger, making the arena uneven, just anything to nerf this game as much as possible, because it produces some very peculiar and uninteresting fights. The driving in this fight was on point, however.
The start from Matt Vasquez was supreme, wasn't
it? There's a moment where Whiplash gets Skorpios up into the screws, and I have a feeling, is this corralling?
It's a little tricky, yeah, because I mean they're moving, so are you still within the 30 seconds?
It's putting them up into the screws, them then not being allowed to come out of the screws, putting them back up into the screws, then putting them back up into the screws. It's like, okay, how long are we going to sit here and do this for? Like, at what point do we have the refs go and move away?
But that's what I mean. It falls on the referees to make a judgment call, and if they're not making a judgment call,
I think they did say that, and I think. At being told to back off, Matt.
Obviously, yes, of course.
And he did. Do I think that they probably kept putting them on the screws for just a little bit too long? I don't think that's Matt's fault. I think perhaps the referees should have said, hey, let them out sooner. And then we could have had more fighting rather than what felt like 30 seconds of a bot being stuck on the screws.
And I think that moment... No, I think it is that altercation that in the end got Whiplash the decision, because obviously they were in full control and aggression at that point.
It killed a lot of time.
Yeah, ran down the clock.
The longer the fight went on, the more I felt Skorpios came back into the fight.
Oh, it did. Second half, all Skorpios.
But
no weapon.
Well, that was it. Which is unfortunate because they made so many changes. Obviously, the picture you see on screen is the kind of the big weapon that they've changed to this year with the more engagement. They went back to their old kind of disc style
it hits the top or the additional top armor and just sort of goes.
I think
aggressive tapping.
Oh,
I think they had a problem. I think their weapon motor might have started to peter out by them.
There was a puff of smoke at one point, and I think that perhaps that was, I think it was a belt. They probably chewed through a belt, and they weren't getting the contact on the belt that they needed to produce the kind of energy that they can genuinely produce. Because you've seen them doing the testing stuff and actually hit. But when you hit something that's really hard, and the belts kind of slip, and you get that of the belts actually going. I don't think they blew anything. I think the belts are the wrong length, or maybe the clutches, if they've got, I think on the Patriot's got chain. So if it's chain, they've probably got a clutch on it, and the clutch itself is not tight enough, maybe. There's 100 things it could be. I don't think it's I don't think they're doing anything particularly wrong. You're spot on with the wedgie setup stuff. They both were like, let's go as long as possible. And let's do that. It's like, no, stop that. Stop this bullshit. It's so annoying.
I did appreciate them touching tips in the middle of the arena, though.
That was cool.
That was nice.
2 robots that can actually do that, touch gloves before a fight. So
yeah, it was very cool. But I say I've seen obviously people kind of criticizing the fact that it was a split decision. I
completely agree. Before the decision came in, I went, and that's going to be a split decision. And sure enough, there it was.
I actually felt Skorpios I thought, if you watch the fight, I think Whiplash won the fight. If I'm watching the fight, I think Whiplash wins the fight. But knowing the criteria, I feel like there's definitely an argument to be made that Skorpios wins this as well, especially the fact that they come back so much in the second half of the fight, and the minimal damage that is caused in this fight is done by them. So that's the thing.
Well, wait, done by Skorpios.
Well, no, because of course this season damage is damage. So if you damage yourself, it's still damage in favour of your opponent.
That bent fork at the front.
Year.
Yeah, that may
bent fork. The smoke goes in Whiplash's favour.
Fair. Yeah. Okay, then in that case,
I can see an argument for both of them. I can tell you that me not being a judge, not having had the conversations that they have had about the Matrix this year, because it's different from the Matrix last year, I would have given it to Skorpios personally.
Really?
But I could see an argument for Whiplash. I'm not so aggrieved that I think Skorpios won that. What? How did Whiplash win it? It's like, well, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it really could flip both ways. You could make arguments.
It's a coin. For me, it was a coin flip, and it could have been either one of them, and I don't think either side would have complained either way.
No.
It was very much Whiplash at the end. It was very much Whiplash at the beginning and Skorpios at the end. And the bit in the middle was where I think Matty won it probably.
Yeah.
But Skorpios just had so much more control over the end of the fight. And I was always told it's not how you start a fight, it's how you finish it. They finished it so strong.
Yeah.
I could see. I would have called it Skorpios personally, but I'm not aggrieved that Whiplash won it. What second place curse, right?
Well, yeah, I say someone actually brought that up to me. Like we mentioned at the end of last year to Matt when we had him on in the final. Do you think you're going to have a stinker of a 2021? Because it happens since the show's come back, it has happened, apart from when Tombstone won, every year. Like since it's been on Discovery, Minotaur had an absolute shocker. The year, after the second Bombshell, of course, as well. And obviously now Whiplash is bucking that trend, and then so it's now 2-0. So yeah, interested to see how. The thing is, it surprised me because it's still such a simple robot. Like it's not got anything on it that makes you think, oh wow, that's really powerful or really.
It's more simple than usual because this is the second fight in the pre-season that they've gone straight left.
Not with the spinner.
I know. Yeah, so they're saving that for something. They clearly have things in mind to save that spinner for. So I look forward to see when they do eventually pull it out, what opponent it is that they bring it out for.
Absolutely. Now, before we kind of wrap things up, Craig, you had a very interesting post on your blog this week, didn't you?
I did.
It's kind of, something that myself and Jevan and Steve kind of feel quite strongly about. It's to do with mental health and BattleBots as a kind of not BattleBots itself as a remedy, but like making things as a kind of escapism from real life, basically. And well, talk us to us about it.
So my day job is making things as well. So I'm a mechanical design engineer and fabricator. So I make things all the time. And dipping back a little bit, 2009, I had a really, really bad time personally. Depression hit me really, really, really hard. And I couldn't really see a way out of it. And it just so happened that RoboGames was happening while I was in my deep funk. And I watched RoboGames, and I made myself a promise that I would go and compete at RoboGames. And I started kind of working my way towards how I would go about what I would take to RoboGames, what I would do when I got there, what kind of robot I would do, and kind of planning out how I was going to make the robot, and how much it was going to cost, and what I needed to do to earn money. And it didn't solve my depression at all. It took years and years. So 2009, when I was at my absolute lowest, it probably wasn't until 2012 or 2013 that I was really on the other side of that. And it was coincidentally, it was 2014 when I first came to America, and competed in 2015 when I first competed at RoboGames. So it's a long process to fight your way through depression and suicidal depression, which is what I was fighting. RoboGames was the one to go to, but also happening at the same time as BattleBots. And everybody kind of thought that BattleBots was kind of going to make a comeback at some point. It took a while, but it eventually did. But my goal was always, I'm going to go and I'm going to compete at the very pinnacle of the sport, whatever it may be. RoboGames was what it was, and I want to win it, and I want to go there, and I want to do this, and blah blah blah. And Robot Combat gave me a reason to keep trying and to not give up. And it was the thing that got me out of bed every single day. And kind of cut forward to 2020. I spent all of 2020 building robots. I built a robot out of scrap that I found, which was a lot of fun. I really got to post the final bits of that. Built Slammo, built so many weapons for Slammo. Started building a Blendo. I actually decided I built a little lamb machine. I was like, what was really cool? I'll make a Blendo. So I got a 30-inch wok lamb machine, and I got a wok, like a 30-inch wok, and a strimmer. And I was like, I'm going to build a Blendo, and I haven't gone too far with it, but I just, to that 2020, I just built robots, and I was just having the time of my life.
You got to the point where you were going to do like your own sort of competition with all these robots.
So I had gone like, right, I'm going to make my own. It's like, BattleBots isn't happening this year. I'm going to do my own in my back garden.
I remember you saying this, yeah.
And I was like, and I bought all of the wood to make like a sportsman arena, and it was just going to be in my backyard. It was going to be like backyard pots or something like that. And the day that the wood arrived, Greg called me and said, hey, we're on for this date. I was like, oh man. So I turned that wood into my workbenches. So I built 2 workbenches out of it as well. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I last 2020 built nothing but robots. 2021, and the hangover from 2020 was that I kind of have this ebb and flow with social media. Sometimes I'm liked, sometimes I'm not. And it's really difficult to kind of balance what you do and what you say social media wise, and that's a really difficult line to walk. So 2021, I just didn't walk it. I didn't post. I didn't do anything. I didn't post those things. And I left a load of groups. I'm not on a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff like that. It was so much nicer, and it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that it was causing me this much stress. And you cut forward to BattleBots, and I get to BattleBots, and the robot's not working as we had expected. Despite lots of testing and everything, thinking it was going to be great, and beginning to realize that 2020 probably, I did too much in 2020. In 2021, I tried to keep doing what I was doing, and I just couldn't. And I just couldn't keep doing it. But we sat down as a team at the end of filming, and we decided to give it another go. We'll do another bot, and we'll go for it. And so we talked about what each of us thought we should do. And I walked around the pits taking notes and stuff like that. And I'm still really kind of at the point where the iron is hot, and I know I've got to strike while the iron is hot, but I could quite happily just not do this for a couple of years and come back. I designed the bot while I was in the pits. I finished the design probably a week or so after we got back. And within a week or so of leaving BattleBots, I had parts on order. And about a month after BattleBots, I had the first bot bolted together going, that's pretty good. Then the rest of the stuff arrived. And mid-November, I'm driving a fully finished robot suplexing old Slammo shells around. I'm like, yeah, it's great, fantastic. I need to stop. I can't keep doing this. So I literally put the robot on my dolly, and I just went, no more. I'm done. I've got to stop. And my parents came over, which was great. Haven't seen them in 2 years, so they got to come over to see them, spend time with them, spend time with my wife, which is like the whole reason I'm here in America. And I built other things. I built
Steve.
I built Steve too.
He did say some pretty shocking things earlier, though, didn't he? That's yeah. We'll have to
it's such racist stuff. You did not expect it. And I made other things. I made him, and I made a full 2022 spec Formula One car. Not copied anyone else's design, so fuck you guys. And a whole box of ultra nerdy, Games Workshop Warhammer stuff, because I did that when I was a kid, and it made me happy back then. And built stuff that wasn't going to go into the arena and be destroyed in front of millions of people, and it made me feel really good. And I've got projects at work that I'm doing that are, we do food-related products, machinery at work, and starting to feel really good designing that stuff, because I know that's going to go and help people. We're going to make food for third world countries and developing nations and stuff like that. And that feels good. And it dawned on me that I don't have to build something that destroys things to feel good about making things. So my whole reason for doing robot combat now has gone. I don't have that reason to do robot combat anymore. And so why am I doing it? And it's been kind of, I've had to reconvince myself to do BattleBots, to do robot combat generally, despite the fact that you can't see it, but I have 30 ant-weight robots here.
You can run your own ant-weight anarchy.
I have so many. I could do this forever. So it's been such a big part of my life. It feels strange to look at it from a different perspective now. And perhaps now that I don't need to do it, is it a time to stop? Or is it a time to go, now I'm doing it for other reasons, I'm doing it because I enjoy it, then I will, hopefully. Because I haven't enjoyed building a robot since I built Fox 3.
I think the way you described
it just becomes
was I think you said it was like a production line. You kind of referred to yourself as a production line of just making BattleBots, which to a degree I do understand it, because obviously, especially for the last couple of seasons, obviously, there's been 4 seasons now in Discovery. It's been year after year after year after year. Everyone brings new machines every year. Like in the old days of Robot Combat, you could probably bring the same machine 2 years in a row. You can't do that now. It has to be completely new from the ground up, improvements made here, more money, more time, more stress, more everything. And it's, I completely understand. It's like a big burnout, and like you kind of essentially, you got to a point where
it's a long running burnout is what it is. I'm like, it started in 2020. It didn't. It started in 2019 when I decided after Fox 6 that I was going to quit, and then Mobot came along and said, here's a bunch of money, and I was like, all right, let's do this. But then at that point, it's like, well, did it start with me wanting to quit, come with Foxic, or did it with Foxtrot, or did it come with Predator, or did it come with Apex? Or at what point did it stop being about what I was trying to do? And I don't know at what point in reality. I was very hurt by Foxic not doing what I wanted it to do, and that's not because what anybody has said. It's just like I worked so hard and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. But to be fair, it's not good enough to go back. You know, I could take it to live events and it would do okay, but I've had Foxic fight Slammo, and Slammo wins hands down every single time. So I know that, you know, there's progression there, but it's just, if you told me I had to get rid of all of my robots and keep one, I'd keep Foxic. I just would. And even if it meant I could never go back to BattleBots, I think I'd be okay with that. Because the look on people's faces when I drive it around the neighborhood is like, oh, look at that. It doesn't
foxes are in the bins again. Has a very different meaning in your neighborhood.
I drove it around once and I knocked over my neighbor's bins, and he came out, he's like, do you know what knocked over my bins? It's like, fucking foxes, man. But you know, it was a very fun robot to do, a very fun robot to be part of, and it was the last robot that was entirely mine. You know, no sponsor, no outside help. I built every single part of it. Probably why it didn't work as well, because it probably should have done. Haven't had an electronics failure since I had Randy and Jason on the team. Just want to point that one out. Well.
You make an interesting point where, for how many sponsors pour into a robot, when does it stop being yours?
Yeah, that was kind of, I love Slammo. Like last year's 2020 Slammo, I still do demos and stuff with it and take it out and show people. Great robot. Really great robot to do that kind of stuff. We've got third place at Robot Ruckus without a weapon. Terrific. It's easier to drive than Foxic. It just doesn't feel very.
There's no emotional connection sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm beginning to get one with it because it's I can throw it in the car and I can go fight it tomorrow. And depending on who it's fighting, probably lose. But I could pick a fight with a Dell printer and win that.
There goes any sponsorship opportunities with Dell.
Well, I've got a Dell computer, so I probably should be nice before it dies on me. I've only just bought it, so please don't die. But I don't know. I've just had a realization that I need Robot Combat to not be what it was, and if it's going to be a production line of things, then I need to treat it like a production line and not try and put any kind of connection to any of it. So we're doing our sponsorship package completely different this year. So I am selling space on the robot rather than asking for sponsors. So it's like, you want to sponsor you want to buy space on the robot? Here are 9 spots on the robot that are for sale. You can buy one, or you can buy however many you want, but they cost X, and it raises like 15k, which is 15k that doesn't have to come out of my own pocket. So I need the robot to be a bit more self-reliant financially, because I don't know that I want to put any more money into it. So yeah, it's not about BattleBots. That's the thing. I think it's not BattleBots that are making me. They're not making me do this. They're not making me feel this way. But being a part of BattleBots has made me feel this way. So take from that what you will.
I think it's interesting, having read the sort of blog post, and it echoed with a lot of us on a sort of a broader sense, because, you know, where do you pivot to when your hobby is the thing that is stressing you out the most? Hobby burnout is a very real thing, especially for people who manage to churn out YouTube content weekly. I mean, I have done.
There's a reason why every year after we do 20 podcasts back to back after every week that I stop and don't do any until next year.
Because it does wear you out, and it genuinely, having the battle of the online section, because obviously this is an online platform, we have to deal with the sort of social media side of things anyway because of the platform we're on, and so it really echoed with us, your post, that we need to sort of take a look at what we do as well and think, why do we do it?
I'll leave a link to it in the description for
Yeah,
sure, right at the top, because I do want people to go and read it and kind of think, okay, it's not just everyone goes through emotions in different ways, but it is. I feel like it's a very relevant lesson to a lot of people, and I think I have to say, Craig, thank you very much for sharing it and being very open with us. As even talking about it now, it's an important thing to keep an eye out for. And
the other thing about it is that we're all men in this one, and we don't talk about this stuff.
No.
I think the younger generation probably are a bit more open to talking about it, but my dad has never spoken to me about his mental health, and he never will. And I don't want to be a father that doesn't have an emotional support network. And so, I'll straight up say it. I say it to everybody that speaks to me about it. If you ever are in a place that you don't know who to turn to and you just want someone to listen to, there are plenty of organizations out there, and I am available on social media. Use my personal one rather than the team one, CM Danby, which is just my initials and last name. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, everything, Instagram. If you reach a point where you don't know who to turn to and you want to talk, and you don't want to talk to a charity like Samaritans or something like that, reach out. Worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to take about 12 hours to get back to you, but I will always get back to you. So it's something that men don't do very well, and I would like to encourage men to do better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit of a heavy note to kind of end on, but Craig,
it's a very wholesome note to end on.
Yeah, it is. And Craig, thank you for your time. It's been an absolute joy talking to you, as always. And I think you're pretty much the longest recurring guest for us. I think all the way back to Robot Wars, Series 8.
Was it like 6 years ago? 2 I was on?
I think 3,
2 or 3, something like that. And then you didn't have me on until last season.
Well, we had your teammates. We had Sam and Tweedy on, didn't we?
You didn't have Chris on yet.
I know. Do you know what? Next time Chris is at BattleBots, because I'm hoping it'll be this year.
Hoping Apex comes over.
Even if it's not Apex, even if it's about with Slammo next year again.
True.
He will be on next time.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the NIE stuff, he would have been here this time. But I do highly recommend having Chris on. He's a quiet person. He's like, yep, okay, yeah, all right. But then once you start talking about stuff, it's like, listen, Lewis Hamilton should have 8 world championships. I won't have it any other way, which is really hard for me because I'm an Adrian Newey boy, which means I'm a Red Bull guy. I'm telling you, over the course of the whole season, Max Verstappen was a better driver. It's only with the increased duty cycle that Mercedes put on that engine for those last 3 races that made Lewis Hamilton faster. I am telling you, you're wrong.
Who knew that we'd need the trigger warning for this bit of the podcast?
Get Chris on.
We will do, absolutely. Well, with all that said and done, I've
really got to pee.
Yeah, me too. I'm desperate.
Let's just wrap it up. We're done. See you later.
Okay.
That's Sam. I'm Jevan. That's Steve. There's Craig.
That's Craig. We're all done. Goodbye. See you next week.
Bye.